Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton, and I want to thank you for joining us today for another great episode. On the phone, we have Evan Blair. He is the co-founder of a company called ZeroFox. They are based in Baltimore, approaching 200 employees, which is pretty cool. They've raised a ton of money. They've actually raised $40 million over the last few years. Company was started back in 2013. ZeroFox, what they're essentially doing, they are a security company that helps companies identify, resolve, mitigate threats, cyber threats in social media and the digital space. So I know Evan's going to do a much better job of explaining it. So let's welcome him to the show. Evan, how are you?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us today. So why don't you tell us in your own words what your company ZeroFox actually does?
Sure. So ZeroFox aims to provide social media security for a critical business application that businesses around the world of all sizes and in all industry segments are leveraging to grow revenues, to take care of customers, to compete for employees in a competitive job landscape. But those technologies that they're leveraging, the social platforms, represent risk, data risk, security risk, business risk. So our goal as an organization is to provide a technology platform that allows organizations to continue to invest in those social platforms and engagement tools while maintaining a concrete security barrier against the adversary, all through cloud-based technologies. Whether you're a financial services organization worried about fraud, or you're a retail organization worried about consumer scams or customer scams or brand infringement, ZeroFox has a platform that is scalable and flexible to address those platforms, along with a customer success and support team that is here 24/7 for our customers, no matter where they are in the world and when the issues arise.
And what types of clients do you work with? I know you work with some very large ones. You have a bunch of big ones listed on your website, like Comcast and Umbro and BAE and Hootsuite. Do you work with companies of all sizes across all industries?
Yeah, we do. And that's not necessarily something typical you'll find in a security organization. You typically find organizations that are geared towards the major enterprises, and then organizations that are geared towards the mid-market or smaller and medium-sized businesses. But because we're a SaaS company, we certainly have some flexibility, and SaaS is software as a service. We have some flexibility from a technology delivery platform perspective. But we've also kind of prioritized pricing as a competitive advantage, building a model that allows us to provide the much needed security services to clients that are a few dozen employees with a storefront or two, as well as provide security services on an ongoing 24/7 basis to the largest enterprises in the world that are the number one or number two in their industry segments and span multiple continents. So the same enterprise-grade security that those clients take advantage of is the same enterprise-grade security that is accessible to our customers that are just getting started. Because one thing we knew very early on was that social media is incredibly valuable regardless of size. And even if you're a small organization, it may be even more valuable because it is that direct consumer mouthpiece that you can leverage to compete against some of the bigger guys, and safeguarding that, protecting against the risk, and securing that investment. It doesn't start when you become a Fortune 500 company, and it certainly never stops.
Can you give us an example of one client that came to work with you guys and maybe what problem they were having beforehand or what specific problem they were trying to prevent?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you two in two different industries. So one of our financial services clients, they were dealing with a lot of what's called money flipping scams. And now we've done a ton of research on this, and we've been published in Forbes and The Atlantic and other major publications, BBC, on money flipping and some of the research therein. But what money flipping really is, impersonating either an official of the bank or somebody that has credibility in the financial world, and then they're actually enticing followers and fans, customers of financial institutions to give up their credentials, allow them to log into their bank account so that they can turn $100 into $1,000 or $1,000 into $10,000. flipping that investment into a much bigger profit. And we had identified these scams as rampant on, you'd be pretty surprised, but on Instagram.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
and this and this was the big problem for our financial services client. They're a major financial provider here in the United States, and they had a fraud team that was spending about a half a dozen people trying to fight this fire ongoing for years, uh, nonstop, with making very little dent. To the fact that our research identified for every one scam that they got Instagram to take down, there were three more that replaced it. And so we actually leveraged some of our machine learning and data science smarts to build out an automated classifier to identify these scams that were taking advantage of their customers, damaging their brand reputation, and costing them millions of dollars in remediation. Because if you're financial, you provide fraud guarantees. It's just kind of the way of the world, and your customers are being frauded. Therefore, you have to replace that cash, and it comes from the bottom line. So we were able to not only automate a problem, reduce their spend and expense in solving this whack-a-mole issue, but also save them millions of dollars in customer loss, millions of dollars in financial loss, and ultimately made a much safer environment for them to engage with their customers, which then led to an increase in revenue because they were able to spend more and engage more on social channels without having to worry about scams and fraud impersonating their brand or targeting their customers directly. The theme of impersonations and fraudulent accounts is one that goes across most of the use cases and the issues that we help organizations solve. But another one of our customers, or a major manufacturer, they were dealing with two issues at the same time. One, they kept having systems being compromised with no signs of malware. And what they were able to identify was that somebody kept harvesting credentials, passwords of their employees, but they couldn't figure out how. And the other problem was insider threats. They had individuals inside taking private information about upcoming and forthcoming products and posting that out on social media sites and other forum sites like Reddit. Without any attribution, they couldn't figure out who it was, and these leaks continued to happen, and they were costing the company a lot of money in sponsorship deals, a lot of money in future retail deals. So we were actually able to solve both of those problems with the same technology, and because that's kind of the best part about our platform is its customizability to the unique use case of the consumer. But the first problem, what was happening was Facebook was being used to target their employees. They were profiling them on LinkedIn, finding out about them, who they were, what their interests were, and then pivoting over to Facebook and sending them Facebook messages that had a URL, ultimately asking them to re-authenticate into Facebook. They were giving up their Facebook passwords. That's not the company password, but most people use their Facebook password as their corporate password. And those who don't, it's just a slight derivation off of that. And so they were harvesting corporate credentials through Facebook scams.
God. Wow.
And then on the insider threat, we were able to correlate timestamps of the posts that were being made on these sites as they happened with the internal network traffic logs, because we can integrate into, if you have a complex security system, we can integrate directly. We're able to correlate the timestamps and identify who was posting these pictures in an unauthorized manner, costing the company hundreds of thousands of dollars, and being able to shut that down. So there's a lot of challenges with the businesses that operate on these social platforms, but it's not going to go away because these social platforms present such a huge opportunity for organizations to grow business and grow their revenues.
When you started this company back in 2013, if I remember correctly, what was the motivation back then? What was the aha moment, or what made you think that this was going to be a huge opportunity in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny. It doesn't always become what you thought it was going to be.
Right. Of course.
We we had identified a singular area of concern from a network security perspective. One of our early advisors, Dr. Ken Gears, stood up the NATO Cyber Center in Estonia. And one of the issues that he told myself and my co-founder, James Foster, was that they were finding almost all of their breaches had links back to social media, but they couldn't prove it and they had no forensics capability. So it was a major blind spot for them. And this is an organization that has access to the best and brightest and has a budget to match. So we did some research because we couldn't believe that something so prominent in our daily lives. We spend more time on social media than we do walking or eating with our family every day. That this technology was so ever present, had no security or compensating controls around it. It just was kind of mind-boggling. And so we did our research and we were shocked. There was nobody doing this. And so we founded the company to initially provide visibility into URLs that were being used to deliver malware, to deliver exploits, or to fish and harvest employees or people's credentials on social platforms, with the singular purpose of increasing the security posture of an enterprise organization who already had lots of investment in firewalls and other perimeter security tools. But over the years, our customers would tell us they wanted more, that this was great, but what about the external risks? What about the brand risks? What about the customer data risks? Even what about the executive travel or executive security risks or data loss risks or compliance risks that manifested themselves with these open engagement platforms? And so our technology evolved to meet those needs, and it evolved into an open architecture rather than a closed system, because we knew we didn't want to make the same mistake twice, that we were going to be right. We knew that there are much smarter people than us out there, and people that are dealing with these issues day in, day out at their jobs. And we wanted to create a system and a technology that could address the next new risk that we hadn't thought about. And so that was that was kind of a fundamental turning point in the organization, going from addressing one point problem to developing and releasing a technology platform that could address an entire attack surface or an entire risk surface without a major focus on any one problem, but with the ability to cover each of those singular problem points or risk areas with a complete full stack real-time security solution.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of Jewel and host of the Startup Sense podcast. At Jewel, we help entrepreneurs and startup founders build, launch, and grow their companies by providing superior technology, marketing, and consulting services. We help clients of all sizes, budgets, and industries. We put our clients in the best position to raise capital, grow revenues, hire employees, and maximize their profits. For more information or to set up a free consultation with our team, please visit our website at jool.net. That's JOOL.net. How do you guys acquire your customers, and how has that strategy changed over the last few years?
Well, acquiring customers was certainly a lot harder when we were really young. And that has had a lot to do with a number of factors, right? It's hard for a startup if you don't have the brand recognition to, get, especially an enterprise organization who tend to be the early adopters in the information security arena, to take a meeting with you, or even if they're convinced that you've got a cool idea, to trust that you're going to be around long enough.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's a challenge. And we were fortunate enough to raise our first funding round fairly quickly. Which allowed us to kind of tout the names of our investors as well as ours, and gain some credibility there with some of our first enterprise clients. But in the early days, it was myself and Foster, our CEO, just pounding the pavement and trying to get anybody to listen to us who would give us 30 seconds. And then once they listened to us, we weren't ever going to let them go until they gave us a purchase order and became a customer. But long gone are the days where we're the only ones selling. We've now got a sales force that it spans 13 different sales territories, including the UK, the EU, and Canadian territories. That we've got.
And are they
so
mostly
many
going
people,
after larger clients?
You know what? They're supporting clients of all sizes. We've got an inside and an outside sales model that allows us to meet face to face with the biggest of enterprise clients and support them the way they need to be supported. But then we also have a team based out of our headquarters here in Baltimore that's focused on providing service and sales to support of all clients, regardless of where they are or what size they are. And so, to answer your original question, we acquire our clients via the tried and true method of kind of direct sales, channel sales, kind of direct human contact and involvement. There's a lot of cold calling involved. There's a lot of trade shows involved. There's a lot of direct mail and direct email marketing and digital advertising. But nothing beats, having a trained and professional sales staff that can go out and meet the client in the field and help them address their needs and understand the value that the ZeroFox platform is going to be able to bring to them.
So I see that one of your investors in the seed round is Jennacast Ventures, which I'm actually not familiar with, but it says that it's a sub-organization of Comcast. So is this Comcast's kind of corporate venture arm?
Yeah, so Comcast has a corporate venture arm called Comcast Ventures.
Okay,
but they also, and they only start investments at Series A. But Jennacast is the Comcast seed stage fund. It's a fund designed to go out and find those deals before the angels do, that have really high growth opportunity and high growth trajectory, but are still super early in their life cycle. Right? There's a couple founders with a vision and with a track record that would make you believe they have the opportunity to achieve that vision. And so Gil Beta is the managing director at Jennacast and been a fantastic advocate for us since day one. Sold a number of his investment companies to people like Adobe and Google. And I think thinking about him makes me just kind of think in a bigger sense about how important it is to select the right investors. As much as you want funding, and as much as you need funding to make your idea and make your dream a reality or pay your employees' salaries, they're going to say no to lots of companies that aren't the right fit. And as an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to say no to an investor that's not the right fit, whether it's their style, their firm, their other investments, the kind of track record for outcomes of their investments, or even just do you like working with them? Those are important questions to ask, because if you pick the wrong investor, there's really no going back. And we've been tremendously fortunate to have some of the best investors in the world, starting with Jennacast and Core Capital and our seed stage fund, on through to NEA and our firm's principal managing director, Peter Barris, the largest venture firm in the world, by the way, to join our board and drive us through a round, to Corey Malloy and the Highland Capital firm out in the West Coast. We were able to find great seed stage money to propel us to fantastic, amazing A round money, and then bring us into some of the best Silicon Valley money that was out there in the B round. And so we've been very fortunate, and they've all provided a tremendous amount of value and insight to guide us on this journey.
So I mentioned the pre-call that you guys are approaching 200 employees, which is congratulations. That's a very large team to manage. I would assume the majority of those people are technical, right? Computer scientists, engineers, people like that.
Oh, we have a very large technical team. We've got computer engineers that write our platform. We've got an applied security research group that is actively conducting research into the tactics, the techniques of the adversary, and writing new rules. We call them box scripts for our customers to protect against those latest and greatest threats. And then we have an applied data science team as actually led by a couple PhDs in neuroscience and big data science to really programatize some of those patterns and techniques we're seeing into machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence algorithms that can then predictively identify these attacks before they occur. So yeah, very large technical team, but we also have a large customer support and customer success group in order to make sure we take care of our customers after they've come on board.
So the majority of our audience are, they fit two molds. One, they're a current entrepreneur, so they're already running a company. And then the second one would be they're looking to start a company in the next 12 months, and they like listening to this podcast and hearing from other founders about their journey. So at what point should a entrepreneur or a company think about utilizing a service like ZeroFox? Is there a milestone that they need to keep in mind? Is it revenue? Is it number of employees? Is it just, the threat to their brand?
Yeah, it's a good question. One we get asked a lot, actually, and I think it really comes down to an individual risk model. And it doesn't need to be some complex Carnegie Mellon maturity model, but an organization or a founder or leadership team, they need to think about where their critical assets sit, right? If you're a B2C company and your most critical asset is loyalty and trust from your consumer base, right? They're using your service or product over a competitor's because they like you. They believe in your brand message or your identity or your values, right? I would say that your brand reputation is your most critical asset. If you're if you're starting up a credit card processor, I'm not sure many people are, but maybe a bad example, but should give some context. Then your most critical asset there is probably not your reputation because your customers don't really care, but it's the data, the safeguarding and the protection of the data that you have, the credit card data, the processing data. And so, if that's the case, your first step may not be a ZeroFox in that second mold, because you probably need to come up with some data security strongholds and kind of infrastructure level security. But if you're, like most businesses today, a modern business that relies on customer trust and loyalty, and you leverage social media in a meaningful way for your business, I think a ZeroFox's solution can provide strong peace of mind and help safeguard you against the unthinkable, which more often than not is going to be a reality at some point.
What's been the biggest challenge or difficulty that your team has faced over the last couple of years?
Growth, I would say. Growth is a challenge in and of itself, and not because it's hard to grow, but as an entrepreneur, you're used to managing yourself and working with usually small founding team. But as your organization grows, and you mentioned it earlier, that getting close to 200 employees, it's a lot of folks to manage. You can't do it all yourself anymore. You have to find people that you trust, and these aren't people that you didn't start the company with, right? These are people that you're hiring that you may or may not have any past experience with. Hopefully, you can get some references from others that you've worked with or that you trust. But at the end of the day, you've got you're going to place your baby in the hands, and parts of it at least, in the hands of others, and that's important, right? I mentioned how important it was to find the right investors. It's just as equally important, if not more important, to find the right leadership team. And we weren't perfect in that. We've never been perfect in that. But I think the mantra that we take is we want to find somebody that is smarter and better at that job than I would be, or that Foster would be, if we committed 100% of our time just to that job. And if that's the person we find, and we also like and enjoy working with them, then that's the person to bring onto the team. And you want to make it meaningful, right? That's also another key thing, right? Every entrepreneur, we're all in this because we want to start something and grow something and make something off of that effort. But leveraging the equity that you've got as an organization to make people a part of it, truly make them a part of it is something that you need to think about, because it's you always have to be thinking about future value, and how much more value can your company earn if you bring on the right people and they're incentivized the right way from an ownership perspective.
Any big recruiting tips that you could share with us?
Find an amazing HR professional to run your people program or your human capital program. I was fortunate enough to have worked with one in the past, and we were fortunate enough to bring our chief people officer with us on this journey.
Now, how early did you bring them in?
Right away.
Oh,
right
wow.
away.
Okay.
I think HR and people, like the importance of people can't be overstated. They're everything. They're everything at a startup. They're everything at an organization that's 10 times the size of mine. And certainly there's a lot of hiring you have to do on your own in the beginning, but bringing that person in, bringing somebody that can come in, and again, we're not talking. This is a startup here. We're not talking about paying a lot of money. That can come in and really build a culture and build a program that puts the employee first is critical, because you're competing. The competition in the labor market is almost as fierce, if not more fierce, than the competition for dollars from your customers. And without the right people, without the right investment in your talent, you're not going to be able to compete on any stage.
Yeah, I think a lot of founders do make that. And maybe it is a mistake, maybe it isn't. It just depends on the founder's ability to recruit their own people. But they try to, until they're kind of at critical mass, maybe that's 20, 25, 30 people, they try to do all the recruiting on their own. And most founders are probably not very good recruiters. It really does take someone full time.
Yeah, and now look, I would never advocate taking yourself out of that process, right? But having somebody that can build the right infrastructure to entice people, right? Healthcare and benefits. It sounds simple, but having a structure in place, whether you're in a financial position to contribute or not, it means a lot to people. And so all of that, you'd be really surprised at how much goes into managing the HR of an organization. I know I certainly was. But founders should 100% be involved in the recruiting in the early days, from interviewing to grabbing a coffee or a beer or lunch or dinner with somebody, especially if they're a key hire, working your own personal network. But again, it certainly helps if you can bring somebody on board that can drive that process from a programmatic perspective.
I think you're the first founder that I've talked to that's building a company in Baltimore. What can you tell us about the startup scene down there, and what are the pros and cons of being in Baltimore?
So Baltimore oftentimes gets a bad rap. A lot of people have seen HBO's The Wire, and it instantly gets written off. But Baltimore is a very, very strong city from a human perspective, a resilient city. And one of the cool traits that Baltimore has that is usually exhibited in successful entrepreneurs is their kind of their drive, their will, and their passion for what they do and what they care about. And in the city, that's Baltimore, and that passion translates into this entrepreneurial community that we have here. When we started ZeroFox almost 5 years ago, it was starting to there was a little bubble coming on. There was a few startups. We were sharing desk space in an incubator down the street. We were renting desks, but there were more and more people coming in that were looking for that startup incubation, that had great ideas, that needed a place to put their computer and an address to put on their business cards, like we did. And now there's a vibrant tech startup community here in Baltimore, and that we're now constantly making lists of the top top entrepreneurial destinations. Right? If you look at Inc. magazine or Forbes or Fortune, you'll see Baltimore oftentimes listed in the same sentence as Austin or some of these other more well thought of environments for entrepreneurship. So no, this city and this state have been fantastic to us. We've been afforded every opportunity here. They continue to promote us. They continue to support us. And we've committed back to the city by keeping our corporate headquarters here in Baltimore City. We actually recently renovated the old Pabst Blue Ribbon factory down here in South Baltimore, just down the street from Under Armour's corporate headquarters. And we redid it. It's all glass and brick, and kept all of the original historic qualities of the building. And yes, we do have PBR on tap in the basement. And we've got a long-term commitment here to the city. And it's one of those things that the city feels back for us back, and that's important.
Now, does Baltimore have the angel investors and the VCs in there yet, or do you typically have to leave Baltimore to find the capital?
No, surprisingly, we did our seed round and our A round all within 60 to 90 miles of Baltimore. The Baltimore angel community is very strong. There's a number of angel investing groups now. There was only one when we started. There's a number of them now. There's a lot of tech money. There's a lot of tech money here. You've got a number of ad tech companies that grew up out here and then sold off to folks like PayPal and others. So there's a lot of money there. There's a lot of DC money. There's a lot of Philly money in here. And NEA's global headquarters is in Silver Spring, Maryland, just a 30-minute drive down the belt or down 95. So and Comcast, like you mentioned, is just a 90-minute drive up 95 in the other direction.
Okay.
So we've been really fortunate to get Baltimore money, DC money, and money from Philly in the early stages, and not have to really leave where we were. Right? We call this the cyber corridor, and even more so for cybersecurity companies. The Maryland Department of Economic Development is highly committed to becoming that cyber center of excellence in the world. Right, the cyber Silicon Valley, if you will, and that investment has been realized through the universities. So now we're in a cycle now where we're able to hire people straight out of the Maryland colleges because they've gone through some of the best cybersecurity and computer engineering programs around. That has been a big boon to us from a recruiting standpoint and a staying competitive standpoint out here in Baltimore versus San Jose or San Francisco.
What are your goals for 2017 and even further out, if you want to talk to us about maybe 2018, 2019?
Well, every entrepreneur starts out with big, hairy, audacious goals, right? So we're obviously continuing to march towards those. We're the category creator. We're the market pioneer. We've defined the social media security space. We built it from the ground up, and we've now been recognized as the leader. And we want to continue to drive and march towards our ultimate goal and controlling our own destiny as a much bigger organization around the world. And we've already taken some really great steps to that. We have a physical office in Santiago, Chile, where we do some research and development out of. We've got an office in London in the United Kingdom. We've got an office in Toronto in Canada, and we're looking to continue to expand globally. We're also looking to continue to grow our channel program and our leverage and our use of partners, right? Building an ecosystem that is mutually beneficial for us and for them in a go-to-market, in a shift in our go-to-market plan, right? Moving from direct sales to kind of channel-driven business and sales. Look, it's growth, right? And continued leadership of the market that we created. And that's getting harder, right? It gets harder every day. As you define a market, right? As an entrepreneur, as you come up with a new idea, address a new problem, and it's people are paying for it, there's going to be others that realize there's an opportunity here and try to fast follow. And so you have to be wary of fast followers, and you have to be faster than them and continue to out innovate. And that's, we do hackathons and keep a very informal culture here for the sharing of ideas between executives and managers and kind of right out of college new hires, because we need to stay nimble and we need to continue to innovate. We can't rest on our laurels. I don't think you ever can, but especially now when we're distinctly in that growth phase where it's about hiring more salespeople, hiring more engineers, closing more, getting more deals, servicing those clients, upselling those clients, building a channel, growing that channel, all in the mix there. We need to make sure that we don't stagnate, that we continue to innovate, and that the energies that we put in the early days to coming up with the ideas for the technology and spending with our customers, learning, understanding their pain, we can't get rid of that. We need to force that and ingrain that in our culture here from the top to bottom, so that we can kind of pass the baton, metaphorically, to the rest of the organization to continue to drive that culture of innovation and commitment back to our customers.
What's the best way to retain top talent? I mean, if I asked you to even put them in order, I'm guessing you can. Geez, I mean, there's different ways to recognize people, whether it's compensation, salary plus bonuses plus equity. I mean, that's one way to retain people. Two is, give them a purpose and a mission. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but what have you found at ZeroFox is the best way to keep your best people happy?
Yeah, I think the best people out there, everybody wants to be a part of something, and they want to change the world, of course. But everybody wants to enjoy the people they work with and the environment they work in. That's certainly really important. So having a culture that is exciting and fun, but you got to realize the difference between a fun culture and a success-driven culture. Those two should coexist. And oftentimes I see entrepreneurs focus on fun, right? I mentioned we've got a keg of PBR downstairs. Taps don't open until 5 and 4 on Friday, right? But so fun, but success first, and a winning culture. It sounds or it may sound nebulous or simple, but the best people like to be a part of the winning team, right? The best athletes want to play for the Stanley Cup contenders, right? They don't want to play for the team that hasn't made the playoffs in a long time. So give them a chance on the field, support them, and ensure that the culture of the organization, the locker room, is focused on winning, on success. And you can have fun along the way because success is fun. But that's the difference between where I see cultures that win and then don't win, is when they say, oh, we need to have a fun culture, and they focus on fun but not success. And I think that's a very important point to drive home. People talk about culture and its importance all day long, but creating a success-oriented culture is first and foremost the most important thing to the corporate success, but also to the top talent retention. And like I said, fun can come along with it. Yeah, sure. Anybody can tell you that. Pay people more, give them more give them more money, give them more equity. But honestly, I haven't seen that as a successful strategy. You could pay people a ton of money, but if you're willing to pay people a ton of money, somebody else probably is too. And so you don't have a competitive advantage there unless you have raised $100 million, and you can outpay your competition. But that's not the way to go about it, right? Money is important, compensation is important, equity is certainly very important. But yeah, don't sleep on culture. It's most businesses aren't changing the world. I hate to say it. It almost sounds Debbie Downer. Everybody wants to make a positive impact. And we are making a positive impact. Absolutely. Here at ZeroFox, we're helping organizations safeguard their customers better, service their customers better, spend less in incident remediation. Therefore, they can spend more and hiring more people, creating more jobs. So we are doing good. Security as an industry in general supports that mission. But we're not feeding the poor. So how do you get out of bed every day to do that? And I think that's success and focusing on winning and ensuring that you don't forget about the community aspects that your business is in. That's another one. Making sure that your organization is not an isolated entity in whatever community you choose to headquarter yourself, right? Embrace the local culture, embrace the local institutions, and become it's not always easy, but become an icon in your organization for whatever it is you're best at.
And last question for you. So if there's someone listening to this podcast that is an entrepreneur now or hopefully in the future, and they ask you, what are your keys to success? What have you done right that's gotten you to this point? Build a massively successful company with upwards of 200 employees, raise a ton of money from investors. I'm sure you guys are doing millions and millions of dollars a year in revenue. What's gotten you to this? What right decisions did you make, or right hires, or I'm sure it was a culmination of a lot of different things, but can you kind of pick 1, 2, or 3 for us?
Yeah, I can definitely pick one. Taking risks and educated risks, recognizing an opportunity when it exists. Most people see the opportunity. They just don't take it. I think it's a concept called, recognizing a black swan. Right? And it's tough. It's really hard because taking a leap presents financial risk, presents personal risk, throws stability out the window sometimes. When we started this company, the year we started this company, I got married, bought a house, and then had my first kid all within 1 year of founding the organization. Crazy, insane, and I knew that was all coming, but I still took the chance because I saw the opportunity. I recognized it. Like I said, there's a lot of people that recognize the opportunity for an online bookseller. Hundreds, if not thousands, millions of people recognize, wouldn't that be great? But only one person took that idea and that opportunity and ran with it. And he's now one of the richest people in the world, right? So you've got to not just be looking for the opportunity, but you have to be ready to commit, ready to jump in both feet forward with no regrets, no looking back. Look, you may fail. You may fail 10 times, even more than that. Right? And again, I kind of sound like a self-help book talking about, the more you fail, the more you learn, and then you'll succeed the next time. But it's true. It really is. And hopefully you never fail, right? You'll fail at things. Hopefully, when you take the plunge to build a company and solve a problem that's out there, right? Never forget about the problem you're solving, because I do see a lot of people that will say, this is such a cool idea. This would be so convenient if I had XYZ app or this type of technology, but they don't realize that the problem they're solving is not really a problem. It's maybe a slight inconvenience, but it's not worth paying money to solve.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest challenges is people, it may be a cool idea. It really may be, but what is the problem that are people willing to be paid money to solve this? And that's, recognize the opportunity, vet the opportunity, but once you've done your vetting, go for it. Don't look back.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. Absolutely. That's a good place to end then. Well, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you being on the show, Evan. Wish you guys the best moving forward. Sounds like you guys are already kicking some ass, so I'm sure that will continue, and I look forward to staying in touch with you in the future.
Thanks so much, Jonah. I appreciate the time, and hopefully it's been helpful for your listeners.
Very much so. I appreciate it. Thanks, Evan. Enjoy the rest of the year, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
You're an Orioles fan, aren't you?
I'm an Orioles fan, but I'm a passionate New York Rangers hockey fan as well. So I don't know. I got my feet in two places, but let's go O's.
I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, so the next 4 days we can't be friends.
Definitely not. Let's go Birds.
Okay, Evan. I'll talk to you soon, man. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.